Hey guys, what's up? This is Dingo Crikey here with another Transformers commentary video. If you guys are interested in more commentary on Transformers 5, the Transformers 4 Age of Extinction toy line, or general Transformers discussion topics, then please check out my playlist and channel where I also have over 20 Transformers stop motion videos, some of which are previewed here. So this time I wanted to throw out a shorter video than the rest of mine, and something a little bit different than what I usually do, because instead of discussing a matter directly relating to Transformers, I actually wanted to ask a question to Transformer fans, in particular you guys who read Transformers comic books. And that question is, where would I start as being a fan of Transformers who hasn't really read the comics, but really wants to look into them? What would be the best place in a particular series of comic books? What would be the best series of comic books to start with in looking into Transformers on the level of comics, graphic novels, etc.? So basically, with some of the franchises that I'm a fan of, I like to look into a lot of the expanded universe and stuff outside of just, the mainstream releases, like, TV shows, movies, toys, that kind of stuff. Like, for example, with Star Wars, I've been looking into reading Star Wars books and reading Star Wars comics. A few months back, I finished up Star Wars Heir to the Empire, which is a book that takes place 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. For any of you who are Star Wars fans, I would recommend reading the book. It's really good, and it's part of a trilogy of books that I plan to finish reading sometime. I've also started reading a Star Wars book called Death Troopers, and, as far as comics, though, I'm planning on reading some. My brother, Darkscreamer785, for you guys who know his channel, recently ordered some Star Wars comic books, and I want to read those sometime. But, comic books aren't something I get around to a whole lot. If anything, I've read more manga in the past. I mean, there's some manga I've read for animes that I like, such as Full Metal Alchemist. I really like both anime series, so I went out and bought some of the manga. There's other manga like Death Note. There's a really cool one that doesn't have an anime series called Until Death Do Us Part, which is another manga that I enjoy reading. But, basically I am into this stuff, and, since I'm into expanding my knowledge of franchises that I'm interested in, or, just looking into these different forms of media, I figured why not look into Transformers comic books and Transformers novels as well. But this in particular, I'm asking about Transformers comics. I have read Transformers comics in the past, but pretty much they're like the ones that come with the generation figures. When I seen they were coming with the figures, I, didn't have a ton of interest then, but I did end up reading them, and I really like some of the comic books that I've read. In particular, I really like the Dark Cybertron series, with Armada Starscream in command of Cybertron, and Rat Trap as a sidekick, and, whatever Optimus and Ultra Magnus are doing, something of stopping the Dark Universe. It's a lot of crazy stuff, but I do really enjoy that. I mean, as far as other Transformers comics that I read, probably about 8 or 9 years ago, I had read one of the 80s comic books, or at least a collection of a lot of the comics that had to do with the Airstrike Patrol characters, such as Whisper, Tailwind, Stormcloud, and I think the other guy was Night Flight. I think so. Anyways, it had those characters, had characters like Nightbeat, and of course Optimus Prime. I think Scorponok was in there too, and some of the Pretenders. And, that was a pretty cool comic. But, outside of that, just like the comic books that came with the Transformers Energon figures and that kind of stuff, I've never really read Transformers comics, and, some of them don't really interest me a whole lot, but definitely a lot of this new stuff, such as the Dark Cybertron series and IDW's comics, the Spotlight issues, do kind of interest me. So I was just wondering, from you guys who do read the comic books, which one would you most recommend for someone who's starting out? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be what you think is the best comic book, because maybe there's a really good one, but it requires a lot of foreknowledge for you to understand it. I mean, from what I can get, the comic books are a lot more complex than any of the TV shows would be. Well, Beast Wars was kind of complex at points, but, so basically that's my background as far as dealing with Transformers comic books, and, kind of what I'm interested in from what I know. So, For you guys who have any recommendations on this, leave it in the comment section below. I would really appreciate it. Like I said, sometime soon I would like to start, ordering and, looking into some of the comic books. And also in the comments, you can discuss your thoughts on comments, maybe recommend certain comics to, other people in the comment section who maybe haven't read the comic books, sort of like me. So if I do end up reading like an entire series of Transformers comic books or, a saga, something like that, I would definitely be interested in doing reviews of them and posting them on the channel. Or, maybe if I go way back and read some of those old 80s comic books. Not that I'm really interested in them, but, if I did, maybe even review those. I think that'd be pretty cool. You guys can tell me what you think of that. If I did get into reading the comic books, would you like to hear reviews on them, or anything else related to that? Anyways, that's all I have to say for this video. As always, leave your thoughts in the comment section below, along with any topic suggestions that might pertain to Transformers 5, the Transformers 4 Age of Extinction toy line, or general Transformers discussion topics. I'm not really going to say Transformers comics right now because, like I said, I don't have a whole lot of knowledge on them, so it's not really fair for me to evaluate them. Anyways, that's all I have to say for this one. If you guys are interested in checking out some of my other Transformers commentary videos where I discuss particular Transformers topics, like relating to the Transformers 5 film and that kind of stuff, then please check out my other Transformers commentary videos, and also check out my Transformers stop motion videos. As I said in the beginning, I have over 20 of them on my channel, and while work on them is a little bit slow in the past few months, I am working on some newer stop motions. I can't guarantee any release dates for them, but I just wanted to let you guys know that I am working on them. Anyways, that's all I have to say for this video. Stay tuned and have a good one, guys.